Welcome back guys to another video. There were many events that happened during the Horus Heresy that could have changed the history of mankind, one of which is Lorgar Aurelian's betrayal of Horus before the siege of Terra. What happened? Let's find out. Lorgar Aurelian was an unusual primarch because he was less martial in nature than his brothers and possessed an abiding faith that religion represented the pinnacle of human expression and a deeply held belief that the Emperor was actually a divine being made manifest in the mortal realm. As a result, Lorgar was determined to spread his own faith in the Emperor to every war that his legion encountered in the course of the Great Crusade, a policy that would be in direct contradiction to the principles of the imperial truth. Lorgar was also never respected by his brother primarchs, largely because he was never comfortable with his own gifts and less prone to violence than they. This caused the other primarchs to believe their soulful intellectual brother to be a weakling, the runt of the Emperor's litter. While other legions left conquests like bloody footprints on the stars, the word bearers lingered, finally leading to the raising of Monarchia, which the word bearers considered to be the perfect city at the hands of the Ultramarines on the Emperor's orders, putting in motion the events which led to the corruption of Horus on the moon of Davin and the Horus Heresy. Following the Shadow Crusade, Lorgar began to believe that Horus was too weak to lead the forces of chaos to victory over the Emperor. He was disgusted by Horus's refusal to submit to the power of the gods, and had foreseen that Horus would ultimately lead the traitors to defeat. Lorgar became secretly committed to killing Horus and taking his place as the War Master of Chaos and the anointed champion of the Dark Gods. Lorgar made his move following Horus's fall at Betrayal, coming to Horus's flagship the Vengeful Spirit with one of his loyal Astartes, the Dark Apostle Zado-Layak. Though Horus was comatose, he agreed that the traitors needed to be assembled at Olanor in preparation for the final drive on Terra. However, not all of the traitor primarchs could be found, nor were they all obeying the summons. Thus Lorgar proposed that Bertrabo journey to find Angron, while he sought out Fulgrim, using an oracle disciple of Cyrene Valentian named Actea as a guide. Lorgar, Layak, and a small force of word bearers entered the webway in search of Fulgrim. They successfully navigated its treacherous corridors to enter the Eye of Terra, where they eventually entered the realm of chaos and soon found themselves before the palace of Slaanesh itself. Within, they discovered Fulgrim, who refused to leave his delights and return to the war effort, forcing the two sides to battle. As Lorgar held off Fulgrim, Zado-Layak uttered the true name of the newly ascended Emperor's Children Demon Primarch. Layak had learned the name during a ritual Lorgar had conducted, but due to the total amnesia it would eventually curse the name's bearer with, he had given the information to the Dark Apostle instead. Fulgrim was bound to Layak's will by the name's utterness, and Lorgar now had a powerful bond with which to slay Horus. After gathering the desperate Emperor's children together, the two legions arrived at Olanor for Horus's master. Horus had by this point recovered thanks to the sacrifice of his longtime equerry Malaghurst, and Lorgar revealed his plan to usurp the War Master. After sacrificing large numbers of mortal servants, Lorgar planned to unleash a psychic scream that would disorient Horus, then have Layak order Fulgrim to attack. The word bearers and Emperor's children orbiting Olanor would finish off the sons of Horus' legion, leaving Lorgar in total command of the traitors' war effort. However, Lorgar's coup quickly fell apart, as Actea had already warned Horus of Lorgar's planned betrayal. Upon meeting Horus on Olanor, Lorgar was immediately attacked before he could unleash his psychic assault, and Zado-Layak betrayed Lorgar by freeing Fulgrim from his bindings instead of ordering him to attack. Lorgar was beaten mercilessly by Horus, who threw him his weapon and demanded his stand and fight. Lorgar refused to fight, and instead expressed pity at the monstrosity Horus had become since his recovery, as Horus had gained an ever-shifting form with a more of dark chaos energy at its core. Horus ordered Lorgar to leave his sight, pledging to kill him if he ever returned. The 5,000 word bearers of the Chapter of the Unspeaking under Lorgar's command, who had followed the Dark Apostle Zado-Layak in his betrayal of Lorgar, would continue to serve Horus and campaign with him on Terra. Lorgar left for destinations unknown, proclaiming that Horus was doomed to failure due to his weakness. As the word bearers battled across the Ultima Segmentum, those of the 17th Legion led by Zado-Layak participated in the siege of Terra. where Horus and his forces were repulsed and defeated after a 55 solar day siege. After the death of Horus, the 17th Legion ultimately took refuge within the war breaths of the Eye of Terra and the Maelstrom, vast wounds in space while the Immaterium leaked into reality. Eventually, the atrocities committed by the Word Bearers led to Lorgar's ascension to demonhood. He became the equal of a god in the eyes of his legion as he transformed into a demon primarch in his own right. It is said his birth scream as a demon prince of chaos undivided echoed across the Immaterium with triumphant vindication, his faith and devotion to chaos rewarded with immortality and unbridled power. He has since isolated himself within the Templum Inficio on the demon world of Sikaris, where he has remained for thousands of Terran years, forbidding anyone to interrupt his meditation, thus allowing the Word Bearers to be taken over by a dark council of the Word Bearers' most powerful dark apostles. The Word Bearers have remained a unified legion, a military force that has not split into separate war bands, all vying against one another for power and control. The main ruling body of the Word Bearers is still the Dark Council, though the council is dominated by two major factions, constantly striving against one another to dominate the legion's future. One is led by the Dark Apostle and former First Chaplain Erebus, the other by the Keeper of the Faith, Corferon. From the two primary bases of the Legion, Sikaris and the factory world of Galmic, which is located in the Maelstrom, the Word Bearers launched twisted wars of faith against the Imperium in the name of the Dark Gods. These conflicts' purpose is to enlighten humanity by replacing its worship of the corpse emperor with that of the only true divinities of the universe. That this requires the death of billions of people is a price that the Word Bearers are willing to pay to bring the truth first sought by Lorgar Aurelian to the rest of the galaxy. Lorgar temporarily broke his isolation to aid his Word Bearers against a monstrosity that was hunting them. The creature was eventually revealed to be the loyalist primarch Corvus Corax, who had become mutated by the powers of the warp during his quest for vengeance against the traitor primarchs. Lorgar and Corax engaged in a duel once more, with the Raven Lord dominating the engagement and forcing Lorgar to withdraw through the warp portal he had arrived in. As the portal between them closed, Corax stated that he now had Lorgar's scent and would hunt him down. After 10,000 years of seclusion in the warp, Lorgar is finally rumored to have returned to lead his legion in the field at the close of the 41st millennium following the birth of the Great Rift. It is said that he has been seen walking the mortal realms in terrible splendor, breaching the world of chaos at the head of a massive Word Bearers army. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay tuned for more.